as soon as possible. And I need you to achieve that. The services I offer don't include carrying out palace revolutions or regicide. And that is probably what your grace has in mind. I want to be king. And in order to ascend the throne, my father has to stop being king, and my brothers must be eliminated from succession. Regicide or fratricide? No, your highness. I have to decline. I regret. Not true. The prince snapped from the shadows. You haven't regretted it yet. Not yet. But you will. I promise you. Your royal highness will deign to take note that threatening me with death defeats the purpose. Who's talking about death? I'm a prince, not a murderer. I'm talking about a choice. Either my favor or my disfavor. You'll do what I demand, and you'll enjoy my favor. And you absolutely do need it, believe me. Now, with a trial and sentence for a financial swindle awaiting you, it looks as though you'll be spending the next few years at an oar aboard a galley. You thought you'd wriggled out of it, it appears. That your case has already been dismissed, that the witch Maya, who lets you bed her on a whim, will withdraw her accusation, and it'll be over in a trice. You're mistaken. Albert Smolka, the Rio Van Sages, has testified. That testimony incriminates you. The testimony is false. It will be difficult to prove that. Guilt has to be proved, not innocence. A good joke. Amusing indeed. But I wouldn't be laughing in your shoes. Take a look at these. They're documents. The prince tossed a sheaf of papers on the table. Certified testimonies. Witness statements. The town of Sismar, a hired witcher, a leaflet dispatched. 70 crowns on the invoice. In actual, 55 paid. The difference split with a local pen pusher. The settlement of Satonim, a giant spider, killed according to the bill for 90, actually, according to the alderman's testimony, for 65. A harpy killed in Tiberghien, invoiced for 100 crowns, 70 paid in actuality. And your earlier exploits and rackets. A vampire in Petrel Seine Castle, which didn't exist at all, and cost the Burgrave a cool 1,000 orens. A werewolf from Guarnes had the spell taken from it, and was magically de-werewolfed for an alleged 100 crowns. A very dubious affair, because it's a bit too cheap for that kind of spell removal. An equinox, or rather something you brought to the alderman in Martin del Campo and called an equinox. Some ghouls from a cemetery near the town of Zagragen, which cost the community 80 crowns, although no one saw any bodies, because they were devoured by, other ghouls. What do you say to that, Witcher? This is proof. Your Highness continues to err, Downcutter. It isn't proof. They are fabricated slanders, ineptly fabricated to boot. I've never been employed in Tavernier. I haven't even heard of the settlement of Saturn. Any bills from there are the blatant counterfeits. It won't be hard to prove it. And the ghouls I killed in Zagragen were indeed devoured by, other ghouls, because such are the habits of ghouls. And the corpses buried in that cemetery from then on are decomposing peacefully, because the surviving ghouls have moved out. I don't even want to comment on the rest of the nonsense contained in those documents. A suit will be brought against you on the basis of those documents. The prince placed a hand on them. It will last a long time. Will the evidence turn out to be genuine? Who can say? What verdict will finally be reached? Who cares? It's meaningless. The important thing is the stink that will spread around, and which will trail after you to the end of your days. Some people found you disgusting, but tolerated you out of necessity, as a lesser evil, as the killer of the monsters that threaten you, he continued. Some couldn't bear you as a mutant, felt repulsion and abomination as though to an inhuman creature. Others were terribly afraid of you, and hated themselves for their own fear. All that will sink into oblivion. The renown of an effective killer and the reputation of an evil sorcerer will evaporate like feathers in the wind. The disgust and fear will be forgotten. They will remember you only as an avaricious thief and charlatan. He who yesterday feared you and your spells, who looked away, who spat at the sight of you, or reached for an amulet, will tomorrow guffaw and elbow his companions. Look, Here comes the Witcher Geralt, that lousy fraudster and swindler. If you don't undertake the task I'm commissioning you with, I'll destroy you, Witcher. I'll ruin your reputation, unless you serve me. Decide, yes or no. No. Let it not seem to you that your connections, Ferron de Lettenhover, or your red-headed sorceress lover will help you with anything. The instigator won't risk his own career, and the chapter will forbid the witch from getting involved in a criminal case. No one will help you when the judicial machine entangles you in its gears. I've commanded you to decide, yes or no. No. Definitely no, Your Highness. The man hidden in the bedchamber can come out now. The prince, to Geralt's astonishment, snorted with laughter and slapped a hand on the table. The door creaked and a figure emerged from the adjoining bedchamber. A familiar figure, in spite of him. You won the wager, Ferron, said the prince. Report to my secretary tomorrow for your winning. Thank you, your princely grace, Ferron de Lettenhover. But I treated the wager purely in symbolic terms, to emphasize just how certain I was of being right. I was by no means concerned about the money. The money you won, the prince interrupted, is also a symbol to me, just like the emblem of the Novigradian Mint and the profile of the reigning monarch stamped on it. Know also, both of you, that I have also won. I have regained something I thought was irretrievably lost, namely, faith in people. Geralt of Rivia, Ferron was absolutely certain of your reaction. I, however, admit that I thought him naive. I was convinced you would yield. Everybody's won something, Geralt stated sourly. And I? You too. The prince became grave. Tell him, Ferron. Enlighten him as to what's at stake here. His Grace, Prince Egmont, here present, explained the instigator, deigned for a moment to impersonate Xander, his younger brother, and also symbolically his other brothers, the pretenders to the throne. The prince suspected that Xander or another of his brothers would want to make use of this convenient witcher with the aim of seizing the throne. So, we decided to stage this spectacle. And now we know that if it were in fact to occur, should someone indeed make a proposition, you wouldn't be lured into princely favor, or be daunted by threats or blackmail. Quite, the witcher nodded. And I acknowledge your talent. Your Majesty entered the role splendidly. I didn't detect any artifice in what you deigned to say about me, in the opinion you had of me. On the contrary, I sensed pure frankness. The masquerade had its objective. Egmont interrupted the awkward silence. I achieved it and don't intend to account for myself before you. And you will benefit, financially, for I indeed mean to engage you, and reward your services amply. Tell him, Ferron. Prince Egmont, said the instigator, fears an attempt on the life of his father, King Belohan, which may happen during the nuptials planned for the Feast of Lunacy. The prince would feel better if at that time somebody, like a witcher, could be responsible for the king's safety. Yes, don't interrupt. We know witches aren't bodyguards, that their raison d'etre is to defend people from dangerous, magical, supernatural, and unnatural monsters. That's how it is in books. The prince interrupted impatiently. In life, it's not so simple. Witches have been employed to defend caravans, trekking through wildernesses and backwards, teeming with monsters. It has happened, however, that instead of monsters, the merchants were attacked by ordinary robbers, and the witcher's role was not at all to assault their persons, and yet he did. I have grounds to fear that during the nuptials the king may be attacked by the basilisks. Would you undertake to defend him from basilisks? That depends. On what? On whether this is still a setup, and whether I'm the object of another entrapment, from one of the other brothers, for instance. A talent for impersonation is not, I wager, a rarity in your family. Ferron bristled with rage. Egmont banged a fist on the table. Watch your step, he snapped, and don't forget yourself. I asked you if you would undertake it. Answer. I might undertake the defense of the king from hypothetical basilisks. Geralt nodded. Unfortunately, my swords were stolen from me at Kerak. The royal services have still not managed to pick up the thief's trail and are probably doing little in that regard. I'm unable to defend anyone without my swords. I must, therefore, decline for practical reasons. If it is merely a matter of your swords, there's no problem. We shall recover them, shan't we, Lord Instigator? Absolutely. You see, the Royal Instigator confirms absolutely. Well, let them first recover the swords. Absolutely. You're a stubborn character, but let it be. I stress that you will receive payment for your services, and I assure you that you won't find me parsimonious. Regarding other benefits, some of them you will gain at once, as an advance, as proof of my goodwill. You may consider your court case dismissed. The formalities must be carried out, and bureaucracy doesn't recognize the concept of haste, but you may now consider yourself a person free of suspicion, with freedom of movement. I am an ordinary great, and the testimonies and invoices, the report from Sigma, the werewolf, and Guames. What about the documents? The ones your Royal Highness deigned to use as theatrical property? The documents will remain with me. Edmund looked me in the eye. In a safe way. An absolutely safe way. In below and barrel was just striking liquid from the attack. Oh, it ought to be acknowledged, kept calm and reserved. She knew that was told to her. Even her voice to the same. Yes, or good feedback. Agility. Became a lizard. A lizard stitching your stitch. You left a lizard stitching? The stitches were put in by a physician, and the lizard. To hell with the lizard! Mosaic, a scalpel, scissors, and tweezers, a needle and catgut, elixir of woundwort, decoction of aloes, unguentum ortolani, a compress and sterile dressing, and prepare a mustard seed and honey poultice.
Shit.
Move, girl! Mosaic made short work of it. Litter set about the procedure. The witcher sat and suffered in silence. May be disastrous. What's that? That thing you're fiddling with? The parasol was tagged with it. It had it permanently attached to its side. He told it from the the seat of the renowned Woodworking. A request that I presume I cannot decline. I have a request. You're asked to go with Boston, knowing in mind your injuries. You don't have to do it. Bearing in mind my injuries, you tell me, physician. I shall come. Later. But now, you will be around for some time. I shall miss you. How do you feel now? Will you be able to... That'll be all, Mosaic. Go to your room and don't disturb us. What's the meaning of that smirk? Am I to freeze it permanently to your mouth? Interlude. Dandelion. Half a century of poetry. a passage of a rough draft never officially published. Verily, The Witcher was greatly in my debt, more and more every day. The visit to Pyral Pratt in Ravlin, which ended, as you know, turbulently and bloodily, brought certain benefits, however. That he is a mutant, well versed in every form of combat, twice as strong as a normal fellow, and 10 times as fast. Who can fell 3 armed thugs with a Cooper's Oaken stave in no time? That, to cap it all, he can work magic using his signs, which are no mean weapon? True, but a sword is a sword. He repeated relentlessly that he felt nature without a sword, so I fitted him up with one. Pratt, as you now know, rewarded the Witcher and I financially. None too generously, but I mustn't grant it. The next day, after my I hired the church to the very tidy grass. I'm standing there looking around, and I see that someone has been in my face. I waited. Not too old, but also not in the flush of youth. Tasteful and elegantly attired. Now then, no stranger to ever be to luck in Europe. A plenty of women find my manner and wishes to fulfill existence. The lady suddenly walks in and introduces herself as Ethna Azida, and claims to know me. Huh, what a thing. Everybody knows me. My fame precedes me wherever I go.
That's a good one.
News has reached me, my Lord Poe, she says, about the unfortunate accident that befell your comrade the Witcher, Geralt of Rivia. I know he has lost his weapons and is in urgent need of new ones, and I am also aware that a good sword is hard to find. It so happens that I possess one, left by my deceased husband. May the gods have mercy upon his soul. At this very moment, I've come to the bank to sell the sword, for what could a widow want with a sword? The bank has valued it and wants to take it on a commission basis, while I, none less, am in urgent need of ready coin, for I needs must pay the debts of the deceased, otherwise my creditors will torment me. Thus, upon which the lady picks up a roll of damask and unwraps a sword from it. A mouthful, let me tell you, light as a feather, the scabbard tasteful and elegant, the hilt of lizard skin, the cross-guard gilt, with a jasper the size of a pigeon's egg in the pommel. I draw it and can't believe my eyes. A punch in the shape of the sun on the blade, just above the cross-guard, and just beyond it, the inscription, "Draw me not without reason, sheathe me not without honour," meaning the blade was wrought in the Nilfgaardian city of Virilega, a place famous throughout the world for its armourers' forges. I touched the blade with the tip of my thumb, razor sharp, I swear. Since I'm nobody's fool, I betray nothing. I look on indifferently as the bank clerks bustle around and some poor old woman points at the brass doorknobs. "The Jancardi's bank," quoth the little widow, "valued the sword at 200 crowns for official sale. But for cash in hand, I'll part with it for 150. "Oh, oh," I reply. 150 is a deal of money. You can buy a house for that. A small one in the suburbs." "Oh, Lord Dandelion." The woman wrings her hands, shedding a tear. "You're mocking me. You are a cruel fellow, sir, to take advantage of a widow so. Since I am trapped, so be it. 100. And thus, my dears, I solved the witch's problem. I scurry off to the Crab and Garfish. Geralt is already sitting there over his bacon and scrambled eggs. No doubt there was white cheese and chives for breakfast at the Red-Headed Witch's. I stride up and, clang, I slam the sword down on the table, dumbfounded. He drops his spoon, draws the weapon from the scabbard, and examines it. His countenance stony. But I am accustomed to his mutant state, and know that emotions have no effect on him. No matter how delighted or happy he is, he doesn't betray it. "Oh, what did you give for it?" I wished to answer that it wasn't his business, but I recalled in time that I had paid with his money, so I confessed. He squeezed my arm, didn't say a word, the expression on his face unchanged. That is him all over. Simple. And he told me he was setting off, alone. I'd like him to stay. Showing up again, because her reaction may be violent. The sorceresses, as you found out directly, don't like it when people disappear. As regards the rest, I promise, you can count on me. I shall have my ears and eyes in readiness and directed at where they're needed. And I've become acquainted with the dear local royal family and heard enough gossip. Our gracious King Bernard has produced numerous offspring. He has changed his wife quite often. Whenever he spots a new one, the old one conveniently bids farewell to this world by an unfortunate twist of fate, suddenly falling into insanity, in the face of which medicine turns out to be impotent. In this way, the king has 4 legal sons today, each one with a different mother, not counting his innumerable daughters and no consequences of shame, all bastards. It's worth mentioning, however, that all significant positions in offices in Canada are filled by his daughter's husbands. My cousin Ferrand is an exception, and his illegitimate son managed commerce with the Witcher, I heed, is listening attentively. The 4 legitimate sons, I go on, are, in order of seniority, the firstborn, whose name I don't know, it's forbidding to mention his name at court. After a quarrel with his father, he went away and disappeared without trace. No one has seen him since. The second, Elmer, is a deranged drunk kept under lock and key. It's supposedly a state secret that we care about its common knowledge. Egmont and Zander are a real connection. They detest each other, and they're exploited kindly, keeping both of them in a state of permanent uncertainty. In matters of the succession, he is also incapable of ostentatiously favouring one of the masters and tantalising him with promises. Whereas now it's whispered in dark corners that he has promised the crown to the son to be born by his new wife, the one specifically marrying him. I'll return soon, he finally said. And you, don't sit around and keep an eye on things. Keep your paws well away from the eyes. Sorceress people are strictly prohibited from using the most innocent of words. So the smallest offensive action. And was a faithful people. I heard a suicide score by that. And there's no fooling around with Colin. He doesn't have a sense of humor. I'm even great for partnerships. Kevin said. Whatever he attempts or fails trying to achieve. We may thus consider the goal of our enterprise accomplished, mainly thanks to you, dear Colin. We may express our gratitude to you, and you shall find us, as always, grateful. You, meanwhile, have my especial gratitude. As your old friend, mindful of what we have shared, I, more than the others, understand your sacrifice. I realize how you must have suffered the proximity of that individual who is like you, an amalgam of the vices you cannot bear. Cynicism derived from a profound complex, with a pompous and introvert nature, an insincere character, a primitive mind, mediocre intelligence, and great arrogance. I pass over the fact that he has ugly hands and chipped fingernails, in order not to irritate you, dear Colin. After all, I know you detest such things. But, as it's been said before, an end has come to your suffering, troubles, and distress. About you and Sabrina Glenising, but it was rumored there was something between us. I They wanted to be various lands, and their tastes and needs demand that they be strong or dependent. That means they recognize not only their talent, or desire, or respect for any word or thought. They believe themselves innocent of and uncontaminated by any obedience. Being in a small state by nature, they live by divination, in which they deceive physically. Service fire, distribute counterfeit money, fraudulent conditions, idiots and narcotics, also dabble in harlotry. That is, they supply paying customers with lewd maidens for filthy pleasures. When they know supposedly they kill monsters for the sake of folks' safety. But that is a lie. Long ago was it proven that they do it for their own amusement, for killing is a first-rate diversion to them. In preparing for their work, they make certain magic spells, howbeit it is but to delude the eyes of observers. Devout priests at once uncovered the falsity and jiggery-pokery to the confusion of those devil servants who call themselves witches. An entire complex of large and small buildings and roofs surrounded by a fence and enclosures for horses and livestock. There was a hubbub and people moved around briskly like at a market or a fair, for it was indeed a fair, a bazaar, an open market, except neither poultry, fish, nor vegetables were traded there. The goods on sale below the castle were magic. Amulets, talismans, elixirs, opiates, filters, decocts, extracts, distillates, concoctions, incense, syrups, scents, powders and ointments, as well as various practical and enchanted objects, tools, decorations, and even children's toys. The whole assortment attracted purchasers in great numbers. There was demand, there was supply, and business was clearly flourishing. The road divided. The Witcher headed along the path leading towards the castle gate, considerably less rugged than the other, which led the buyers towards the marketplace. He rode across the cobbled area in front of the gatehouse, along an avenue of menhirs, specially set there, mostly considerably taller than him on his horse. He was soon greeted by a gate, more suited to a palace than a castle, decorated with pilasters and a pediment. The Witcher's medallion vibrated powerfully. Roach neighed, her horseshoes clattering on the cobbles, and stopped abruptly. Identity and purpose of visit. He raised his head. A rasping and echoing voice, undoubtedly female, seemed to emerge from the wide-open mouth of the harpy's head depicted on the tympanum. His medallion quivered, and the mare snorted. Geralt felt a strange tightness at the temples. Identity and purpose of visit, came the voice from the hole in the relief, a little louder than before. Geralt of Rivia, Witcher, I'm expected. The harpy's head uttered a sound resembling a trumpet call. The magic blocking the portal vanished. The pressure at his temples stopped at once, and the mare set off without being urged. Her hooves clattered on the stones. He rode from the portal into a cul-de-sac, ringed by a cloister. Two servants, boys in practical brown and grey attire, ran over to him at once. One attended to the horse, and the other served as a guide. This was Let's end these squabbles. Let's give this battle of snide remarks and acerbity a miss. We know Geralt has something against us. It's audible in every word he utters. We know why that is. We know how the affair with Yennefer saddened him, and the reaction of the wizarding community to the affair. We shan't change that. But Geralt is a professional. He will know how to lie to others. He will, Geralt admitted caustically. But the question is whether he'll want to. Can we finally get to the point? Why am I here? We need you, said Zara dryly. You in particular. Me in particular? Ought I to feel honoured, or to start feeling afraid? You are celebrated, Geralt of Rivia, said Pinnacle. Your deeds and exploits are indeed regarded by general consensus as spectacular and admirable. You may not especially count on our admiration as you conclude. We aren't so inclined to show our esteem, particularly to someone like you, but we're able to acknowledge professionalism and respect experience. The facts speak for themselves. You are, I dare say, an outstanding... Yes? Eliminator. Finity found the word without difficulty. He had clearly prepared it in advance. Someone who eliminates monsters and beasts that invade the Geralt was a friend. He waited. Our aim, the aim of all sorcerers, is also people's prosperity and safety. Thus, we may talk of a community of interests. Occasional misunderstandings ought not to obscure that. The lord of this castle gave us to understand that not knowing. He is aware of you and would like to meet you personally. That is the Ortolan, Grand Master Ortolan, and his closest collaborators. You will be introduced later. The servants will show you to your quarters. You may refresh yourself after your journey. Rest. We'll send for you soon. Geralt pondered. He recalled everything he had ever heard about Grandmaster Ortolan, who was, as general consensus had it, a living legend. Ortolan was a living legend, a person who had rendered extraordinary service to the magic arts. His obsession was the popularization of magic. Unlike the majority of sorcerers, he thought that the benefits and advantages deriving from supernatural powers ought to be a common good, and serve to strengthen universal prosperity, comfort, and general bliss. It was Ortolan's dream that everybody ought to have guaranteed free access to magical elixirs and medicaments. Magical amulets, talismans, and every kind of artifact ought to be universally and freely available. Telepathy, telekinesis, teleportation, and telecommunication ought to be the privilege of every citizen. In order to achieve that, Ortolan was endlessly coming up with things, meaning inventions, some just as legendary as he himself. Reality painfully challenged the venerable sorcerer's fantasy. Sorcerer's Brotherhood, the reluctance to popularize the art of magic, which sorcerers and sorceresses preferred to see in the hands of the elite, i.e. their own. The fears were more about inventions of a military and lethal nature, and the fears were justified. Like every inventor, Ortolan had phases of fascination with explosive and flammable materials. Siege catapults, armored chariots, crude firearms, sticks that hit by themselves, and poison gases. Universal peace among nations is a condition of prosperity, the old man tried to prove, and peace is achieved by arming oneself. The most certain method of preventing wars is to have a terrible weapon and a deterrent. The more terrible it is, the more enduring and certain the peace. Because Ortolan wasn't accustomed to listening to arguments, saboteurs who torpedoed his dangerous inventions were hidden among his inventing team. Almost none of the inventions saw the light of day. An exception was the notorious missile hurler, the subject of numerous anecdotes. It was a kind of telekinetic arbalest with a large container for lead missiles. This missile hurler, as the name suggested, was meant to throw missiles at a target in whole series. The prototype made it out of Risberg's walls, astonishingly. and it was even tested in some skirmish or other, with pitiful results, however. The artilleryman, using the invention, when asked about the weapon's usefulness, apparently said that the missile hurler was like his mother-in-law. Heavy, ugly, totally useless, and only fit to be taken and thrown in a river. The old sorcerer wasn't upset when this was relayed to him. The weapon was a toy, he was said to have declared, and he already had many more advanced projects on his drawing board capable of mass destruction. He, Ortolan, would give humanity the benefit of peace, even if it would first be necessary to destroy part of it. The wall of the chamber where he was laid was graced by a huge tapestry, a masterpiece of weaving of Arcadian verdure. The tapestry was marred by a stain somewhat resembling a large squid that hadn't been completely washed off. Someone, thought the Witcher, must have puked up on the masterpiece not long before. 7 people were seated at a long table occupying the centre of the chamber. Master Ortolan, Finity bowed slightly. Let me introduce to you Geralt of Rivia, the Witcher. Ortolan's appearance didn't surprise Geralt. It was believed he was the world's oldest living sorcerer. Perhaps that was really true. Perhaps not. But the fact remained that Ortolan was the oldest looking sorcerer. This was strange insofar as Ortolan was the inventor of a celebrated mandrake decoction, an elixir used by sorcerers in order to arrest the aging process. Ortolan himself, when he had finally developed a reliably acting formula for the magical liquid, didn't gain much benefit from it, because by then he was quite advanced in age. The elixir prevented aging, but by no means rejuvenated. For which reason Ortolan too, although he had used the remedy for a long time, continued to look like an old culture, particularly when compared to his confreteries, venerable sorcerers who resembled men in the prime of life, and his consorors, world-weary sorcerers who looked like maids. The sorceresses bursting with youth and charm, and the slightly grey-haired sorcerers, whose real dates of birth had vanished in the mists of time, jealously guarded the secrets of Ortolan's elixir, and sometimes quite simply even denied its existence. Meanwhile, they kept Ortolan convinced that the elixir was generally available, owing to which humanity was practically immortal and, consequently, absolutely happy. Geralt of Rivia, repeated Ortolan, crushing a tuft of his grey beard in his hand. Indeed, we have heard. The Witcher. A defender, they say. A guardian, protecting people from evil. A prophylactic agent, an esteemed antidote to all fearsome evil. Geralt assumed a modest expression and bowed. Indeed, indeed, continued the mage, carrying out his beard. We know. According to all testimony, you spare not your strength to defend, my boy. You spare it not, and your practice is verily estimable. Your craft is estimable. We welcome you to our castle, content that the fates brought you here. For though you may not know it yourself, you have returned like a bird to its nest. Verily, like a bird. We are glad to see you, and trust that you are also glad to see us. Geralt was undecided about how to address Ortolan. Sorcerers didn't recognize polite forms and didn't expect them from others. But he didn't know if that was acceptable with regard to a grey-haired and grey-bearded old man and a living legend to boot. Instead of speaking, he bowed again. Pinity introduced the sorcerers seated at the table in turn. Geralt had heard of some of them. The forehead and cheeks of Axel Esparza, more widely known as pock-marked Axel, were indeed covered with pitted scars. He hadn't removed them, so went the rumour, out of sheer contrariness. The slightly grizzled Miles Trevevi and slightly more grizzled Tukud Zanjanis examined the Witcher with moderate interest. The interest of Viruta Icarti, a moderately attractive blonde, seemed a little greater. Tarvik Sandova, broad-shouldered, a physique more befitting a knight than a sorcerer, looked to one side at the tapestry, as though he was also admiring the stain, and was wondering where it came from and who was responsible for it. The seat nearest Ortolan was occupied by Sorrel Dagerman, apparently the youngest of those present, whose long hair lent him a slightly effeminate look. We too welcome the famous Witcher, the defender of truth, said Billy Castle. We are glad to welcome you, since we also toil in this castle under the auspices of Grand Master Ortolan, in order that thanks to progress, we will make people's lives safer and easier. People's best interests are our overriding goal, too. The Grand Master's age doesn't permit us openly to command the audience. Thus, I shall ask you as appropriate. Do you have any wishes, Geralt of Rivia? Thank you, Grand Master Ortolan. Geralt bowed again. And you, distinguished sorceress. And since you embolden me with a question, yes, there is something you can do for me. You could enlighten me about this thing. I tore it from a Vigilosaur I killed. He placed on the table the oval plate the size of a child's hand with characters embossed on it. RIS PS Rep Mark 4/0020025. Pockmark Axel read aloud, and passed the plate to Sandoval. It's a mutation, created here by us at Risberg, Sandoval stated bluntly. In the pseudo-reptile section. It's a guard lizard. Mark 4, Series 2, Specimen 25. Obsolete. We've been manufacturing an improved model for a long time. What else needs explaining? He says he killed the Vigilosaur. Stucco's St. James grimaced. So it's not about an explanation, but a claim. We only accept and look into complaints which are from legal buyers, and only on the basis of proof of purchase. We only service and remove defects on the basis of proof of purchase. That model's guarantee expired long ago, added Miles Trenetti. And anyway, no guarantee covers defects resulting from inappropriate use of the product, or in breach of the operating instructions. If the product was used inappropriately, Risberg doesn't take responsibility of any kind. And do you take responsibility for this? Geralt took another plate from his pocket and threw it down on the table. The other plate was similar in shape and size to the previous one, but darkened and tarnished. Dirt had become embedded and fused into the grooves, but the characters were still legible. IDR ULX 90012 Beta. A long silence fell. Idaran on Uyupa, Finity said at last, surprisingly quietly and surprisingly hesitantly. One outsourced students. I never expected. Where did you get it, Richard? Pockmarked Axel leaned across the table. How did you come by it? You ask as though you didn't know, retorted Geralt. I dug it out of the carapace of a creature I killed. One that had murdered at least 20 people in the district. At least 20. But I think it was many more. I think it had been killing for years. You died, muttered Talbot Sandoval. And before him ran a spinner and outsource. But it wasn't us, said St. James. It wasn't us, not Frisberg. Experimental Model 9, added Bilute Carty pensively. Beta version. Specimen 12. Specimen 12, Geralt chimed in, not without spitefulness. And how many were there altogether? How many were manufactured? I won't be getting an answer to my question about responsibility, that's clear, because it wasn't you, it wasn't Risberg. You're clean, and you want me to believe that. But at least tell me, because you surely know how many of them there are wandering around in forests, murdering people. How many of them will have to be found and hacked to death? I meant to say, eliminated. What is it? Ortolan suddenly became animated. Oh, what do you have there? Show me. Ah. Sorrel Dagerland leaned over towards the old man's ear and whispered for a long time. Miles Trenetti, showing him the plate, whispered from the other side. Ortolan tugged at his beard. Killed it? He suddenly shouted in a high-full voice. The Witcher destroyed Dara's work of genius. Killed it. And the thinking he destroyed it. The Witcher couldn't control himself. He snorted. His respect for advanced age and grey hair suddenly abandoned him altogether. He snorted again, and then laughed, heartily and relentlessly. The stony faces of the sorcerers sitting at the table, rather than restraining him, made him even more amused. By the devil, he thought. I don't remember when I last laughed so hard, though. Probably in KMON, he recalled. Yes, in KMON, when that rotten plank broke underneath Vesemir in the privy. He's still laughing, cried out Otto. His name like an ass. Doltish whippersnapper. To think, I came to your defense when others vilified you. So what if he has become enamored of little Yennefer, I said. And what if little Yennefer dotes on him? The heart is no servant, I said. Leave you both in peace. Geralt stopped. And what have you done? Most stupid of assassins, the old man yelled. What did you do? Do you comprehend what a work of art? What a miracle of genetics you have ruined? No, no, you cannot conceive of that with your shallow mind, layman. You cannot comprehend the ideas of brilliant people, such as Idaran and Arthur, his teacher, who were graced with genius and extraordinary talent, who invented and created great works, meant to serve humanity without taking profit, nor taking base mammon into account, not recreation, nor diversion, but solely progress and the common weal. But what can you apprehend of such things? You apprehend nothing. Nothing. Not a scrap. And indeed, I tell you further, Ortolan panted, that you have dishonored the work of your own fathers with this impudent murder. For it was Cosimo of Malaspina, and after him his student Elso, yes, Elso, who created the witches. They invented the mutation into which men like you were bred. Owing to which you exist, owing to which you walk upon this earth, ungrateful one. You ought to esteem us, his successors and their works, and not destroy them. Oh dear, oh dear. The old sorcerer suddenly fell silent, rolled his eyes and groaned heavily. I needs must to the stool, he announced plaintively. I needs must quickly to the stool. Sorrow, my dear boy. Daggerland and Trevelyan leapt up from their seats, helped the old man up, and led him out.
These are going to be resonators for congas. I just now saw the chat, sorry about that. Basically, if you're playing congas on carpet, you need something to rest the congas on so that they can be heard.
Not even looking at
And so,
pockmarked Axel stood up and crossed his
the
arms
side with
his chest.
the wood stain and the
He looked at Geralt
channels
for a long time,
is where the conga sits that it can be heard.
and rather unpleasantly.
What I'm doing now is stain
It was a
prep
mistake to invite you.
for
I knew
the
it, but I deluded
sides I'm
myself
going to
into
stain.
thinking
The
it
actual
must
channels I'm
have
going to
been
paint black
good manners.
because
It was a mistake. to
I
accept
made some
your
mistakes with the
invitation.
router and dug in deeper than I intended, and I'm going to
I
hide that
also
with black
knew
paint.
But I deluded myself in
Which I
thinking
think will
I
look
would
nice
receive
anyway,
answers to
but
my
whatever.
questions. How many numbered masterpieces are still at large? How many similar masterworks did Malaspina, also and Idaran manufacture, and the esteemed Ortolan? How many more monsters bearing your plates will I have to kill? I, a witcher, prophylactic agent, and antidote. I didn't receive an answer, but I well apprehend why not.
Okay.
Regarding good manners, however, fuck off, Esparza. Esparza, the pockmark, slammed the door as he went out, so hard that plaster fell from the ceiling. I don't think I made a good impression, concluded the witcher.
That needs to soak in for 15
Hence, there
minutes.
is no disappointment. But that probably isn't everything, is it? So much.
Yeah, I've not been the most
and that will be
vocal
all.
about this stuff.
Why,
As I
things
get
like
more
that.
jobs to do,
Well,
these will be
I've got
pretty
tenants on the
regular.
hole in the suburbs. Can I toddle along now?
For a moment, these need to sit in... This pre-stain is basically a light oil that will open up the pores in the wood, help the stain stick, help the stain look nice. Because this is just low-grade plywood. See how it ends up turning out. But yeah, I'm going to paint these inner channels here black. And you can see where I actually bondoed the divots in the wood. Thought about leaving it stained, but there enough errors kind of came together and made that not feasible. Spread that out a little bit. Alright, I'll need a cloth to wipe out the excess. About 10:40, I will get to work on that. I should have sanded that a little more. Oh god, oh crap, okay. Come on. Sit and be nice. Sit and be good. Stay. There we go. Let that come down a little bit more. Fan going. Okay. Yeah, it is an audiobook of the Witcher novels. Right now I'm listening to kind of the prequel novels. So like this is just a collection of short stories that kind of precede the events of the rest of the books. So it's I can't remember the guy reading it. Does a good job, but he definitely puts on a character for everybody. Not to say I don't listen to flamboyant podcasts. That's definitely a thing that I do. Going to clean workspace again.
I remember, even though as a visiting student, you would usually sit in the back row of the lecture theatre.
Yeah, I really recommend the books. They're great. They do add a kind of an extra dimension to the gameplay. Especially these prequels right here. They mention a lot of events that are usually mentioned as references in the game, but they're not super necessary to understand the plot. But it's an extra little oomph.
A simple witcher, a simple prophylactic agent, an even more simple antidote. I'm asked about my experience with demons. And the questions are being asked by masters of magic who lecture about demonism and its aspects at the university. Answer the question. I'm a witcher, not a sorcerer, which means my experience comes nowhere near yours regarding demons. I attended your lectures at Oxford Camp. Anything important?
You haven't played the games, oh my god. No, I get that.
Elemental planes, dimensions, space-times, or whatever.
No, I avoided the games like any game that gets, I mean, a lot of hype. It kind of has the opposite effect. The more people are excited about them, the less I want to play it. And The Witcher was that way for a long time. But as with most of the content I produce, eventually I find myself on the subreddit, sort by top all time and just kind of fiddle-faddle around a bit. And I really like the fan art. I like what looked to be a solid set of lore and posts where people are like saying this game changed my life. It's like, okay, that's pretty lofty. So I finally dove in and started playing the games, and yeah, they're very good. I think story-wise, they do a hell of a thing. It's an experience. But I will say the actual gameplay, the combat mechanics, can be a little clunky, and I think a lot of people agree on that fact. And honestly, I got used to it quick. It's my rotation of games. Right now, I'm playing Fallout 4 again. Probably this is playthrough number 10, I think. But my usual rotation of Fallout 4, Witcher 3, Borderlands 2, and then Skyrim. And then recently I added Red Dead Redemption to that as well, which holds up great. You can definitely sink a lot of time into it. But you can also not sink a lot of time into it. If you just focus on, like, the story missions, and there are a lot of side quests and collectibles and stuff. If you just do the story missions, it's not that long. Not, like, detrimentally short, but as much time as I do sink into that game, if I just did the story missions, it'd take you 25, 30 hours. But when I do a full playthrough, it can take me 70. Easy. And I usually play on, like, a kind of an easy to normal difficulty, so I play more for story than for difficulty. But it's worth it. I would say start with Witcher 3. I've got 1 and 2, I've just not played them. I think those are even weirder gameplay wise, and I get it. They're early in that thing's development cycle. But yeah. But it's got some great side missions. Like, everything is well thought out in that game, and then the DLCs are like their own full games. It is ludicrous how good the DLCs are. The story in Hearts of Stone is incredibly captivating, and then the world building and story in Blood and Wine is exceptionally good. Blood and Wine is the addition of a place called Toussaint, which is basically France, and it's a nice place to be. Compare that to some of the other settings of the game, and the settings are incredible. You start in White Orchard, you end up in Velen and Novigrad, and then you go to Skellige. And each of those places are distinct in their aesthetic. Like, they are aesthetically pleasing for their own reasons. Welcome to the Woodworking and Game Review stream? Question mark? Yeah, I've not played the first one or the second, but Witcher 3 is good, and it does well as a standalone. You don't need that much precursor. They do a good job of getting you in gently into the story stuff, but if you're willing to do it, you know, I do the books first, and then go into the third game. It's great. Yeah, it's clunky and it kind of lends itself to button spamming. Of course, I'm kind of a button spamming style of player anyway, so I liked it. Okay. This is clean-ish. These have sat for about 10-15 minutes, so they're probably nice and opened up. Flying stain. How do I want to do this? Because I should do it on camera, but I don't have access to both sides of them unless they're mounted like they are now. Okay, I'm going to move the camera. And they're just going to have to drip right onto the concrete. There'll be a stain on the concrete. I'll just add it to the list of shit that's stained. Back here. And down. Can people see that? There, kinda. Lighting is shitty, but that's my life. Yeah. I am in that rotation, but I like it. It's comfortable here. I know what to expect. But it's on a long enough rotation now that I actually forget things. Like, last summer, I was just playing Fallout 4 over and over and over again, because I guess I'm mentally ill is the short answer to that. And now that I've added Skyrim and Witcher and Borderlands and Red Dead Redemption, there's enough time between playthroughs that I forget certain aspects, and so it's like a new playthrough all over again. Okay. I really should wash my hands. I'm going to wash my hands. I'll be back. I'll just throw this back on.
They're called. In order to have any kind of experience with the demon, you have to invoke it, meaning forcibly extract it from its plane. It can only be accomplished using magic. Not magic, but goethe, interrupted Pinity. There's a fundamental difference. And don't tell us what we already know. Answer the question that was asked. I requested for the third time, amazed by my own patience. I'll answer the question. Yes, I have dealt with demons. I was hired twice in order to eliminate them. I've dealt with two demons, with one that entered a wolf and another that possessed a human being. You dealt with them? Yes, I did. It wasn't easy. But it was feasible, interjected Zara. In spite of what's claimed. And it's claimed that it's impossible to destroy a demon. I didn't claim I ever destroyed a demon. I killed a wolf and a human being. Do the details interest you? Very much. I acted alongside a priest in the case of the wolf that had, in broad daylight, killed and ripped 11 people to pieces. Magic and sword triumphed side by side. When, after a hard fight, I finally killed the wolf, the demon possessing it broke free in the form of a large glowing ball and devastated a fair stretch of forest, scattering the trees all around. It didn't pay any attention to me or the priest, but cleared the forest in the opposite direction, and then it disappeared, probably returning to its dimension. The priest insisted he deserved the credit, that his exorcisms had dispatched the demon to the beyond, although I think the demon went away because he was simply bored. And the other case was more interesting. I killed a possessed man, he continued without being praised, and that was it. No spectacular side effects, no ball lightning, auroras, thunderbolts or whirlwinds, not even a foul smell. I've no idea what happened to the demon. Some priests and mages, or comforters, examined the dead man. They didn't find or discover anything. The body was cremated, because the process of decay proceeded.
This workshop is
very hot.
in the crawl space.
The sorcerers looked at each other. Their faces.
In the loosest of technicalities, it is my workshop.
As I understand it,
But as soon as I'm able to move to like a rented house with a garage, I will set up my own workshop in like a one-car garage, and then at that point I'll actually take things like camera position into consideration because I do want to stream this stuff a little more often. But because I live in a one-bedroom apartment right now, it's not really an option. So I stream from here.
That's not how it's done. In order to insult someone,
but this is the crawl space in the school of music.
Desire, enthusiasm, and fervor. You need technique. Facts. Pinity headed off an argument again. We are simply establishing the facts. You told us that you killed a man. Those were your very words. Your witcher code is meant to preclude killing people. You claim to have killed an inarguable, a person who'd been possessed.
Oh, I just unsettled so much dust with quick time.
No spectacular effects were observed to push your death. Where then is your certainty that it wasn't enough? Enough of that, Windcamp. These illusions are going nowhere. You want facts? By all means, they are.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what you've been doing on that front. We've not discussed that since Derek's wedding, probably. Whenever the hell that was.
Albeit in quite high-sounding words. A state of absolute necessity, a circumstance precluding the lawlessness of a forbidden deed, sacrificing one good in order to save another one. A real, direct threat.
Oh boy.
It was indeed real and direct. You ought to regret you didn't see the possessed man in action.
Holy Christ, this stuff is dark.
I know
oh boy.
Philosophical and metaphysical aspects.
This is supposed to be like
but the physical aspect is
a cherry chestnut.
It can be astonishing. Take my
Kind of dark.
word for it.
Hopefully that wipes off.
We believe you. Confirmed Pinity. Exchanging glances.
Ah! Oh, it's all over me.
But because we've also seen something.
I'll wipe off the excess here in a second.
Darkest
Oh man, okay, I should have done this with a cloth.
And
What am I
I did
doing?
that vast job in lectures at Oxford. It was apparent you knew what you were talking about. The
There we go.
theoretical underpinning really came in handy in that
Just
wolf
keep
man.
splorching it on.
I knew what it was about. The two
Do
cases
this in a
had an
second.
identical basis.
Oh god. Okay.
What did you call it, Zara? A method? A technique? And thus, it was a magical method, and the technique was also magical. Some sorcerer summoned the demon using spells, extracted it forcibly from its plane, with the obvious intention of exploiting it for their own magical goals. That's the basis of demonic magic, Goetia. That's the basis of
It's
Goetia.
gonna look weird and gross for a
Invoking
second.
the demon, using it, and then releasing it.
Proper.
In theory. Because in practice, it happens that the sorcerer, instead of freeing the demon after using it, imprisons it magically in a body. That of a wolf, for example, or a human being. For a sorcerer, as Altsur and Idara have shown us, likes to experiment, likes observing what a demon does in someone else's skin when it's set free. For a sorcerer, like Altsur, is a sick pervert who enjoys and is entertained by watching the killing wrought by a demon. That has occurred, hasn't it?
I don't have any way to light this up.
Various things have occurred, said Hollitsar in a slow, drawling voice. It's stupid to generalize and never to
Oh,
approach.
part of the shitty bitrate issue is
From the robber, who didn't hesitate to work as hard
I'm
as
on school
I'd
Wi-Fi.
like to remind you of the psychopaths
Can I just hang that
who
there?
medallions
It'd be great if I
on
could.
Cat's Head,
Nope.
and who were also amused by
Can
the
I?
killing being wrought around.
Damn it. There. No.
Silencing the witch.
I could sit right there. That'd be great.
This isn't a session of the town.
Except that's where I need to stay next.
Let us do one another
Like
by
that maybe? Nope. Like that maybe?
something more judicious.
Okay, so
There's
there.
nothing more honest. Anyone has to
Please.
and even
Please.
speak to a creature
Oh,
who
please.
is Let's concentrate on the problem
Shit.
and which demands a solution. Goetia,
It is stain.
if you began.
Stain goes on super dark, and then you wipe off the excess, and it lights up. I wanted something reddish. This is vaguely reddish. It's more brown, if I'm honest. This is red chestnut. That now that I'm looking at it in not the store lighting, I think it's a little darker than what I wanted, but
Difficult to control.
oh well.
Once invoked without knowledge or skills. A self-taught Goetic
There's the spot.
can think
There's a spot up there.
to be invoked feeling simply
Anyway.
breaks away, frees itself and feels. Many of them end up on the shreds. Thus, invoking
Gross,
the
gross, gross.
or any other creatures in elemental planes and para-elements was prohibited and had the threat of severe punishments imposed on it. There exists a system of control that guarantees the observance of the prohibition.
Speaking of stain, I bet this has stained my skin already. That's gonna be fun to clean off later.
Risberg Castle, of course. Of course. Risberg has the control. For the system of Goetia control I was talking about was created as a
Go. And then wipe off the excess.
Carried out here, the system is still being developed. Other research is being conducted here, and other
This looks
experiments.
cooler than I thought it would. I don't know if that comes out on camera or not, but there's little pock marks in the wood from, I guess, this thing being run through a mill. That looks better than I thought it would. And I wish it would have matched the grain structure on both of these. Well,
That slogan could hang over the gate. And beneath that slogan ought to be added, what happens at Risberg stays at Risberg. Experiments are carried out here under supervision. Everything is monitored. Clearly not everything. Girls sleep inside. Because something escaped. Something escaped. Timothy was theatrically
shit,
charmed.
shit.
There are currently 18 masters working at the castle. And on top of that, well over 4 school apprentices and novices. Most of the latter are only a few formalities away from the title of master. We think, we have reason to suppose before someone from that low group wanted to play a game.
I should have said that
Though
better.
we know who. We do not. Hollitsar replied without batting an eye. But the witcher needs
Oh, yeah.
to be
The stain's always a
in
fickle.
May, and at the beginning of
fickle
June,
thing.
3 large-scale crimes were committed in the vicinity. The
little better.
sorcerer didn't wait for further questions. In the vicinity,
I have other
we
flashlights, but I have to
on the
dig them
hill
out like 2
between
miles.
12 and 20 miles from Risberg.
Okay.
He
each time.
We get the back of this. Could be very entertaining television here in a second.
All the residents were murdered in the settlements. No one was left
Shorp,
alive.
shorp.
Post-mortem examinations confirmed that the crimes must have been
Kind of a
committed by
small brush for this as well, but you know,
precisely.
I do what I want. I'm an adult.
Someone possessed by a demon that was invoked here at the castle.
You just have to trust me that I'm standing this and I'm standing it really well.
Yes, we have to solve it. And we hope you will help us with it.
Oh man, there's so much stain on the floor right now. You've heard of stained concrete. Well,
Sending matter
same idea.
is another
Just
sophisticated and subtle
sort of less stupid.
before setting about heritage, one must, without fail, dedicate and empty the ground. Geoffrey modeled the theory and practice of using teleportals. Chapter 10. As usual, Roach snorted and protested on seeing the blanket, and fear and protest could be heard in her snort. She didn't like it when the Witcher covered her hair. She liked even less what occurred right after it was covered. Gareth wasn't in the least surprised with the man, because he didn't like it either. Naturally, it didn't behoove him to snort or splutter, but it didn't stop him expressing his disapproval in another way. Your aversion to teleportation is truly surprising, said Harlan sighing, showing his astonishment for the umpteenth time. The Witcher didn't join in the discussion. Zara hadn't expected him to. We've been transporting you for over a week, he continued, and each time you put on the look of a condemned man being led to the scaffold. Ordinary people, I can understand, but then matter transfer remains a dreadful, unimaginable thing. But I thought that you, who are Witcher, had more experience in matters of magic. These aren't the times of Geoffrey Monk's first portals. Today, teleportation is a common and absolutely safe thing. Teleportals are safe, and teleportals opened by me are absolutely safe. The Witcher sighed. He happened to observe the effects of these safe-functioning teleportals more than once, and he'd also helped sorting the remains of people who used teleportals, which was why he needed declarations about their safety.
Yeah, that would complete the Twitch motif of
My little dog doesn't bite.
happy, pleasant presenters,
This juice
which I'm not.
I'll give you the money back the day after tomorrow at the latest. You would only get me something
Let's
out
let
of my
Bob
life.
Ross be Bob Ross, and I'll just do what I do. I'll do what I'm good at, which is not
Just
being Bob
ask a
Ross.
few questions and you're free to go. The one of choice or an alternative.
Yeah. It's a little more brown than I thought, but I'm coming around to it. I'm liking it.
Gareth's daily task was to
I'll go ahead
patrol
and
a selected region of the hills and
Do the other side, just so you guys have something to watch.
places where Pinnacle and Zara
Woof.
made enough attack by
Woof,
their
woof, woof.
natives. Settlements like that were spread over the entire hills, sometimes quite far from each other. Geralt had to admit and accept the fact that effective patrol wouldn't have been possible without the help of teleportation and magic. To maintain
Spread, kind of a
Pinnacle and
macro
Zara
level. Where's the grain? There's the grain.
End of the Ristberg complex, in a large, empty, musty room in need of refurbishment, where cobwebs stuck to
I
the
just
floor
flicked
and
stain all
shriveled
over.
up
It's all over me. Send help.
A spell was activated on a wall covered in damp patches and slimy marks, and in the brightly shining
Of course, they'll be painting, real painting. Well, not that kind of painting, but they'll be painting later.
beyond which swirled an opaque
I'll let this
incandescent glare.
cure. I'll evaluate if I'm going to do another coat or not. I probably don't need to. Honestly, like I don't want to go any darker than this.
There was a flash, and he stopped seeing, hearing, or feeling anything apart from cold. Cold was the
I
only
hope no
feeling
real
inside the black
woodworkers are
and
watching this,
silence,
because
amorphousness,
they'll just
and
laugh.
solitude. Because the teleport dulled and extinguished all the other senses.
touch more.
Only for a split second. The moment passed, the real world flared up, and the horse, snorting with terror, clattered its horseshoes on the hard ground of reality. The horse taking fright is understandable, Zara said to him, while your anxiety, which is utterly irrational. Anxiety is never irrational, Geralt said. The sergeant's psychological disturbances. It was one of the first things novice witches were told. It's good to feel fear. If you feel fear, it means it's something to be feared, so be vigilant. Fear doesn't have to be uncommon. Just don't yield to it, and you can learn from it. Where to today?
After the wiping, you see that kind of comes off a little more even,
What
like
region?
so.
Dry rocks. Try to get the maiden grove before sundown. Pinnacle or I will pick you up from there. Ready? For anything. Zara waved his hand and wand in the air.
With the grain, with the grain,
And Geralt
with the
thought
grain.
and knew. The
Yeah, it looks-
sorcerer melodiously chanted a long
Well,
spell
it looks
that
quite a bit
sounded like
nicer.
thunder recited. Flaming lines flared
These
up
are
the
actually
wall,
for
and
a
lit up
private
the
customer.
enchanted the Witcher swore under his
Guy I knew back at Blinn who's being extraordinarily patient with me on this because he asked for this back in April. And I've been so busy. A lot of life has happened in the past month. I graduated. I got a position here at Tech, which is exciting. Because I'll be managing Hemley Recital Hall, so that's exciting. But yeah, I was presenting at a NCPP in Arkansas. Yeah, so I'm trying to get these. I don't know if I'll make it, but I'm trying to get these shipped out to him probably like over the weekend. He's been incredibly patient.
Since there weren't any other hills in the region, it became common to simply say the hills. And that short name also appeared on many maps. The hills stretched in a wide belt about 100 miles long and 20 to 30 miles wide. The western part, in particular, was worked intensively by foresters. Large-scale felling had been carried out, and industries and crafts linked to felling and forestry had developed. Large, medium, small, and quite tiny, permanent and makeshift, tolerably and poorly built settlements, colonies, homesteads, and camps of the people earning their living by forest crafts had been established in the wilderness. The sorcerers,
I gotta say, that's staying for
around
its job.
4 dozen of such settlements existed throughout the hills.
Yeah.
Massacres, from whom no one
Again, in the past month, I have graduated with a master's degree, gotten a big boy job right out of the gate, which never happens. I'm super, super lucky to kind of get that out of the gate. That's super rare these days. Now, granted, it's not a teaching job, but I wasn't really looking for one, so. But I'll start that properly on June 20th, and I'll become a more permanent fixture here. To the woe or excitement of the students that are in the studio.
Lying or any kind lay quite far beyond history.
Blurps, blurps,
But a colony of
blurps, and
people had
blurps.
sprung up on the hill who made a living from said lines, even been entrusted with their protection, and only that mattered. The line burners
Warp
looked
this
up.
on.
One of them waved his trumpet. Geralt returned the greeting. I'm doing my job, Stephen. I'm doing my duty. Doing what they pay me for. He guided Roach towards the forest. He had about a half-hour ride along a forest track ahead of him. Nearly a mile separated him from the next second. It was called Pointer's Clearing. The Witcher covered a distance of from 7 to 10 miles over the course of the day. Depending on the region, that meant visiting anything from a handful to more than a dozen homesteads, and then reaching an agreed-upon location from where one of the sorcerers was teleported back to the castle before sundown. The pattern was repeated the following day, with another region of the hills to patrol. Geralt chose the regions at random, wary of routines and patterns that might easily be repeated.
A little more.
Despite that, the task turned out to be quite monotonous.
You know, this stuff looks a little bit like coagulated blood.
He was accustomed,
I hope that doesn't come back to bite me.
in most cases,
When someone comes back here like, who bled all over the floor? Maybe a reddish tone was not the best decision.
Never before, and this was happening, had anyone ever been willing to pay for his patience, perseverance, and determination, as generously as the sorcerers of Brisker.
Yeah, that's
So he
looking
couldn't complain. He just had to do
it's looking
his
way
job
better than I thought it would.
without
I
believing
thought this was gonna look like a bit like an idiot did it, and to be honest, an idiot did do it.
You presented me to Ortolan, and all the high-ranking mages immediately after my arrival at Brisker. He pointed out to the sorcerers. Even if one assumes that the person guilty of the Goethia and the massacres was the common, news of a witch of the
Just stop taking
right. Your wrongdoer, assuming he exists, will understand in no time what's afoot, so will go into hiding and abandon his activities entirely, or will wait until our lady can then begin again. We can stay for your departure, replied he, and your continued stay at the castle will be a secret. Fear not, magic exists to guarantee the confidentiality of what must remain.
Oh, try for 8 hours.
Believe us,
Oh,
we can work that kind of magic.
God.
So you believe my daily patrols make sense? They do. Do your job, Richard. And look well after this.
You let that dry for 8 hours? I wanted to paint the fucking inside of it.
Although he had
Okay.
and didn't entirely
That might put me at a stopping point. Let me get
suspicions, but had no intention
a
of
real
acting.
flashlight. A real-ish flashlight.
Axes banged and swords rubbed briskly in Quintus clearing, and there was a smell of fresh timber and resin. The relentless felling of the
Looking for
forest was
any
being carried out by the woodcutter Quintus.
grossly
Right.
inconsistent
The older
stain
members of the family
patterns.
chopped and sawed.
Though to
The
be
younger
honest, I
members
don't mind a
stripped
little
branches from the trunks, and the younger
character and
carried
inconsistency. Gives it
Quintus
a
saw
more
the
rustic feel.
sank his axe into a trunk and wiped his forehead. Greetings. The Witcher rode closer. How are things? Everything in order? Winter looked at him, long and somberly. Things are bad, he said at last. Why? Pointer said nothing for a long time. Someone stole a saw, he finally snarled. Stole a saw? How can it be, eh? Why'd you patrol the clearing, sire, eh? And Torquil roams the forest with his men, eh? Gardeners, are you? And saws going missing? I'll look into it. Geralt lied, isn't it?
That's my conditioner. I need black.
Very well. Pointer spat. In the next clearing, this time Dudek's, everything was in order.
Oh,
No
never
one
shake.
had taken Dudek,
Oops.
and probably no one had stolen it. Geralt didn't even stop. He headed towards the next settlement, called Ashburn.
Thin coat.
Forest
3 to 4
tracks,
o'clock.
furrowed by wagon wheels, easily
Okay.
Geralt often
Well,
had
that'll be tomorrow's adventure. I don't think there's going to be
and others unlit.
time.
Away from the dark. He also met groups of pedestrians.
I'm definitely not going to be here another
There was
8
an
hours.
astonishing lack of traffic. Even deep in the forest, it was seldom completely busy. Occasionally, the large rump of a woman on all fours, gathering the berries or other forest fruits emerged from the stones at the back of a narwhal in the ocean waves. Sometimes, something with a stiff gait and a posture and expression of a zombie mooned about among the trees, turning out to be an old geezer looking for mushrooms. From time to time, something snatched the brushwood with a frenzied yell. It was children, the offspring of the woodsmen, charcoal burners, armed with bows made of sticks and string. It was astonishing how much damage the children were capable of causing in the forest using such primitive weapons. It was horrifying to think that one day these youngsters would grow up and make use of professional equipment. Ashburn settlement, where it was also peaceful, with nothing disturbing the work or threatening the workers, took its name, very originally, from the production of potash, a valued agent in the glassmaking and soap-making industries. Potash, the sorcerers explained to Geralt, was obtained from the ash of a charcoal which was burned in the locality. Geralt had already visited and planned to visit again that day, the neighbouring charcoal burning settlement. The nearest one was called Oak Grove, and the way there, indeed, led beside a huge stand of immense oaks, several hundred years old. A murky shadow always lay beneath the oaks, even at noon, even in full sun and under a cloudless sky. It was there,
Yeah.
by the oaks,
It turned out all right.
that Geralt had
I'm happy with that.
encountered Constable Torquil and his school.
Let me get my grubby fingers off there.
When men in green camouflage
Probably better ways to suspend and
galloped out of the oaks,
stain this
and
stuff.
surrounded
I'm
them on
too
all sides,
stupid to know
Geralt
those are.
first took them for foresters, members of the notorious volunteer paramilitary unit who called themselves the Guardians of the Forest, and whose mission was to hunt non-humans, elves and dryads in particular, and murder them in elaborate ways. It sometimes happened that people travelling through the forests were accused by the foresters of supporting the non-humans or trading with them. They punished the former and the latter by lynching, and it was difficult to prove one's innocence. The encounter by the oaks thus promised to be extremely violent, so Geralt sighed with relief when the green-coated horsemen turned out to be law enforcers carrying out their duty. Their commander, a swarthy character, Gaze, had introduced himself as a constable in service of the bailiff of Gors Belen, bluntly and brusquely demanded that Geralt reveal his identity, and when he was given it, demanded to see his witch's emblem. The medallion with the snarling wolf was not only satisfactory proof,
Hand is so
but aroused
stained.
admiration of the guardian of the law.
But,
His
okay.
being, so it seemed,
That's got character. I'm happy with
Geralt
that.
himself. The constable dismounted, asked the
I
witch
will-
to say, and invited him for a short conversation.
That is a custom brand. I
The
ordered that from,
constable dropped
I think it was like custombrands.com, some store on Etsy.
You indeed
But yeah,
are the witch
let me
Geralt of Rivia.
pull it and show you.
The same Geralt of Rivia who who saved a woman and child from death in St. alone by killing a man-eating monster. Geralt pursed his lips. He had happily already forgotten about the sages, about the monster with the plate and the man of whose death he was guilty. He had fretted over that a long time. Had finally managed to convince himself that he'd done as much as he could, that he'd saved
So they use a metallic 3D printer to print a logo. Now, I do have my qualms with this brand. The shank is not very long, and I had to add some metal to the back of it, and then that soldering iron I use is actually not hot enough to get this to brand. I use it to preheat, and then I use a propane torch to bring it to final temp, but as you can see, it's not very thick, and those little spindly arms don't transfer a lot of heat. So if it were like half an inch thicker, and those arms were thicker, it would probably work with the soldering iron. And then if its shank extended into the back of the soldering iron, but as it doesn't, not a lot I can do there, so I have to heat it manually. Which sucks because I want to get, you can get a attachment for a drill press so you can make it more automated and more consistent. If you look at these, you know, I had the this way upside marked, but I mean, mistakes were made, so they're a little crooked, but I mean, it'll be fine. Because the first brand jumped a bit and I was able to clean that up, and then the second brand, cleaner, but there's a missing part of the line that I'm honestly considering filling in with a Sharpie or a brown marker. Oh well. But yeah, it's pretty neat. I was very happy when this came in the mail.
Geralt had no intention of revealing it. The sorcerers of Bristol bought my services in my time by that song. 15 days of my time. And the 15 days have passed, irrespective of what happens. The same amount will be transferred again. Alright, they're surely paying a good deal. Franz Torquil quickly realized he wouldn't be receiving an answer.
Yeah, I've done a lot of effort to
And I'll tell you this.
make this, you know, in reality it is just one dude in a basement occasionally working on people's stuff, but I paid for a graphic designer, he was actually in chat earlier, to make the logo. And then I sent the design of that to the brand company. And then the website I did myself with Squarespace, and I think it looks pretty good. But if there's a point where I start having more work and I'm fairly solvent in my assets, I want to hire someone to do the website properly, because it's okay now, but it is pretty amateur looking, and there are, you know, I want to make a social media you know, kind of a section to all this so that it's approachable for the kiddos and whatnot. But the plan is eventually have a mobile workshop.
Beginning of June, Rogovitz.
The plan is eventually to have like a mobile workshop that I drive to schools and work on their stuff, and then from that workshop I would stream fairly regularly. And the way I see it, if the customer tunes into the stream, they can see that their item is being worked on. They could see live if like a mistake happens, and then like immediately get a phone call from me going, "Hey, I broke your shit." But it's accountability. It's kind of like tracking. Like if you get your car worked on, you can get a like video and photo updates. So. Or like pet sitting, when someone sends you a picture of your dog every day and stuff like that. So, yeah, and an attempt at professionalism has been made. I am baffled as to why this one spot here keeps losing stain. Oh well, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. My hands are filthy. I want to go wash my hands again. Goodbye. you'd be shocked to learn that stain does a pretty good job of staining. So, I have some new freckles now. I hope there's none of this on my face. No promises, though. Oh well. Yeah, I know what you mean by kind of a blog update, stuff like that. Like, I have a blog segment of my website, and the only post on it is the post that was like, I'll be at TMEA. For me, there's not enough, like, middle gap of time of the day to keep track of that stuff. Alright, well, this has to dry. Get our dual fan action going, just because I can. See if that runs overnight, because that one's battery powered. And this one... okay. I'll try it. Alright. I'm gonna call it there. Not much more I can do since that has to dry. Bye, y'all.